What's up guys, this is Pooka bringing you one of my matches from Bad Deck Monday. This will be my straight Kyurem deck versus Renfield89's Garchomp Altaria. Now unfortunately I start with my one copy of Ho-Oh EX. This is not what you want to see. This is the last Pokemon you want to start with. It's just meant to get some sort of energy acceleration later on in the game. And if you start with it, not only do you not get to use it, but you might get to use it after you give up 2 prizes. Which is not what you want to do at all. So I'm going to start off. I realize I'm probably going to have to pay energy to retreat this thing. Or maybe a couple turns later I can power it up. And I actually have to Juniper away 4 energy on the first turn as well. And this is just looking really ugly. I don't know how my matchup against Garchomp Altaria goes. Of course, Altaria only has 70 hit points. So if I can manage to Glaciate with Kyurem a couple times and knock out all the Altarias, I think I'll actually be able to win. But if he manages to get up, let's see, he needs 2 Altarias in play, then he can Dragon Blade my Kyurem for 140, thanks to the plus 40 from the 2 Altarias, and knock that out in 1 hit. The key for Kyurem being any sort of successful is living for a turn. Taking a hit so that it can Glaciate twice. Otherwise, you know, it takes 3 energy to use Glaciate. It's just going to take way too long to actually do anything. But we'll see what happens. Now, he does play a blend on that Gibble. And all he's going to be able to do is Sand Attack turn 1, so I'm not under any real pressure. And really, this Ho-Oh deck could put on a little bit of pressure. I do have that Kyurem EX on the bench. And I draw an energy switch. So if I'm fortunate enough to draw it, I can switch, energy switch, and then get a double colorless, and go ahead and use Frozen Wings turn 2 to knock out a Gibble, which would be a very, very strong start. He won't really have much to deal with that. But just in case I don't pull that off, I'm going to Enhanced Hammer to discard his Blend energy. The one thing I want to avoid is him getting 2 energy on a Garchomp. That is going to be very painful. If he can start using Dragon Blade, it's just gonna knock out all my stuff way too quickly, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just gonna drop down an experience share. I don't know if I should have done that. Maybe I should have just held on to it for later. But then I'm just gonna end, pray for the double colorless, and hey, I get one. So that is good news for me. And I could Ultra Ball away a couple cards there, but I'm gonna have to discard probably 2 cards that get me supporters, being an N and Random Receiver probably, which I don't really want to do, so I'll just hold on to the Ultra Ball. I can afford to wait to get my Kyurem into play. So from here, I'm still in some trouble. I've put him on the back foot at the very least. I've knocked out one of his Gibbles, and this will prevent him from exploding on the second turn with Dragon Call with Gabite, because usually what happens is you get 1 Gabite, and then he searches for another Gabite, and then the whole thing just gets out of control quickly. They get a bunch of Altarias, and then turn 3 you go Garchomp, start attacking. But in this situation, he can only Dragon Call once. He cannot get another Gabite this turn. It's going to slow down his start tremendously. So if you can ever manage to take out a Gibble on the first or second turn, you should definitely go for it. It slows down their setup quite a bit, just not being able to Dragon Call that quickly. So I notice right away my opponent does not get another Gibble. This means 2 of them must be prized. There's no other explanation for it. He would be getting another Gibble in play, because you need multiple ones to power up your future Garchomps. Altaria does not really attack. So here I am a little skeptical about what my opponent will be able to do the rest of the game, and I'm feeling a little optimistic. And then he plays an N, which is fine. I'll get 5 cards. But, you know, it's still going to be tricky. If he ever gets a bunch of Altarias out and a Garchomp, I don't know if I'll be able to even take that out. Kyurem isn't that great against it, if it's getting knocked out in 1 hit. Kyurem EX also not very good against it. So, my options are fairly limited, but what can you do? So here I'm going to Ultra Ball. I get a Bianca off my Random Receiver, so you need to play cards down from your hand to make Bianca useful. So I'm going to have to discard an Energy Switch and a Water. which I like to keep my energy switches as long as possible, but sometimes they are expendable. And here, I'm going to just play down my hand. Should probably play the water as well, but I'm just going to hold on to it in case I get a switch. But I don't. So now we'll probably just put it on Kyurem so I can set up Glaciate for later. And Ho-Oh is pretty much dead in the water, unless my opponent catches around it and hits something else. But for the most part, I'm just kind of stuck there with the Ho-Oh for the time being. I don't actually care that much if it gets knocked out, because then I can use a Rebirth to get energy in play, energy switch some stuff off, and power up my other attackers. So even though I'm giving up 2 prizes, it's better than just having it on my field doing nothing the whole game. So I would probably prefer that he does knock it out. But will he do that? That's the question. He could still catch her and bring up an actual threat. And here we have a switch, so he is in the dreaded 2 Altaria with Garchomp in play scenario, where he can start doing 140 with Dragon Blade. If he gets a catcher, he could either knock out that Kyurem, or he could take the Kyurem EX and then use Mach Cut for 100, discarding the double colorless. Both of them would be equally devastating, and we'll see if he decides to do that or not. So at this point, I'm trying to figure out how to win. Even though there's really only 1 Garchomp to deal with, since there's 2 Gibbles prized. This deck doesn't have any straightforward way of dealing with it, sad as it sounds. I draw an Enhanced Hammer, but I decided not to play it. At this point, I can N and try to go for a double colorless or a switch or something like that, but I don't think it's worth it to take the risk. Basically, everything I want is in my hand. What I'm going to do is sacrifice the Kyurem this turn, and then Enhanced Hammer the blend off of his Garchomp, and then I will N and try to get a catcher to bring out his Altaria, and then Glaciate. That's going to make it so if he attaches to the Altaria to retreat, he won't be able to knock me out. If he attaches to the Garchomp, he won't be able to retreat, and I'll get another turn to use Glaciate. Basically, both ways, I get to Glaciate twice. So when you're playing this deck, you kind of have to try to find some openings to keep your Kyurem alive so that you can Glaciate. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Now, I could play an EXP share down on that benched Kyurem, but first of all, there's only 1 energy on the active, so there's no real reason to do that. Second of all, if he plays Tool Scrapper, then I won't be able to use them at all. So I don't want to open myself up to Tool Scrapper and have him discard 2 EXP shares off my benched Kyurems. Then I'm just going to lose straight up. The EXP share and the Ho-Oh acceleration in this deck are the real keys to being able to Glaciate multiple times, and yeah, there we go, there's a Tool Scrapper. And just like that, he discards 2 EXP shares, and right now I'm like, uh-oh, well, what do I do from here? That kind of ruined my whole plan, and I'm not too sure what I should be doing. So, the bright side is I discarded a Blend Energy on the first turn, second turn, somewhere around there, and I can discard another one here. But he might run out of them. He might not draw into another one. Really, if he can manage to keep using Dragon Blade, I'm probably going to lose. But we still got some hope. So I'm going to miss Glaciate this turn because my EXP share got discarded by Tool Scrapper. I only have 2 energy. I'm going to promote the Kyurem with no energy on it, because if I promote the other one, what am I going to do? I can Outrage for 20, and then he'll probably get knocked out. Or I can catch out Altaria maybe if I draw one, and Enhanced Hammer, and then it's just not a good situation. I would like to spread my energy out. I'm gonna try to attach to the active, and then put the EXP share on the benched one, as you should probably see here. Because what's gonna happen is if he retreats and hits the active for 100 with Mach Cut, then I can attach to the active and Outrage for, it'll be 120. Which is going to be devastating for him because, well, then it's just a Glaciate, and I'm knocking out a Garchomp and doing damage to the rest of his field. So I'm going to attach the active to give myself the option to Outrage. I'm going to just hope he doesn't have another Tool Scrapper. He probably plays 2 at the most. And we're going to catch out the Altaria since it has no energy on it. It has to pay to retreat. And from there, probably just going to pass. I don't have many other options. Don't want to even play the Revive or put the Kyurem EX down on my bench. No real reason to do that. Those cards probably aren't going to be useful at any point in time. So the only real way I'm in danger this turn is if my opponent plays a switch and then a blend, but he actually has to waste a blend energy to retreat the active here. Now I'm actually kind of conflicted on whether or not he should do that. I think he should have probably attached the blend to that Garchomp. That way he could just have the Dragon Blade ready for next turn, and he can just retreat and hit me for 140. If he does that, I'm not too sure what I do. I would have needed an Enhanced Hammer to do something about that, and I don't think I have any more. I probably play 2 or 3 in this deck. 2 are gone already, so the odds of that happening, not so high. And this is just going to take up his 3rd blend energy. He only has 1 left at the most. I don't know if he plays any water energy, but that's not too common in these decks. So he's going to retreat and then just go ahead and, yeah, Mach Cut for 100. Now this is going to let me fulfill that situation I was saying before. I can now Outrage for 120. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't want to catch her. I just want to Outrage the active for 120. And next turn, at the very least, with that EXP share, I should be able to Outrage for 20 and get the knockout. In a perfect world, I draw an energy, and it looks like he gets an N. So he might be playing that, which would help me out quite a bit. And if I get the energy, I can then catch up Altaria with no energy. Play the energy on my Kyurem and Glaciate, do 30 everywhere, knocking out the Garchomp. And then it's just 2 more Glaciates, and I should actually be able to just kind of win the game. If I take out all the Altarias, it's easy peasy, game over. He doesn't have the additional damage, there's no threat anymore, and I'm just gonna win. And when he puts down that Emolga, that really is just kind of, alright, that's gonna be game if I can Glaciate 3 times. As long as he doesn't play any potions or max potions, 3 Glaciates will knock out every Pokemon on his field. 2 Altarias, they both have 70 hit points. Swablu has 40, Emolga has 70. So, Glaciate 3 times is 90 to everything, and there's no way he can stop it. Unless he can knock out this Kyurem very quickly. He cannot stop that. So just like that, you can see the power of Glaciate against these kinds of decks. It's also very good against Electric, where they only have 90 hit points. If you can wipe out their entire field, that is an extremely powerful thing. So here I'm just going to play as many cards out as I can. There's no real harm in putting more Kyurems on my bench, because if he's going to catch or something, it's just going to be Ho-Oh. So I might as well just play these cards out, because if he ends, I don't want to draw back into them. And here we start the Glaciate train. 30 everywhere. Gonna knock out the active Garchomp. And this is just gonna put my opponent on a bit of a clock. He has, well, 2 turns to deal with this thing. If he doesn't knock it out, he's going to lose. Plain and simple. If he doesn't knock it out on, well, he needs to probably hit it this turn, which he looks like he will do with his Garchomp. He then needs to knock it out on the next turn, or else 2 Glaciates and it's game over. And this is just the power of Kyurem. I mean, it's slow to start. It's very, very, very fragile. Weird to think that 130 hit points is fragile, but fragile in the sense that a lot of things can actually knock it out in 1 hit, because it takes so long to set this thing up in the first place. You know, stuff like Mewtwo, like Zekrom EX, Rayquaza EX, all these things can knock me out in 1 hit, and even Garchomp once 2 Altarias come out. And it takes 3 energy to get this guy going. If they ever Tool Scrapper away your EXP shares, you're in a ton of trouble, because it's too tough to maintain 3 energy in play to keep using Glaciate. But now my opponent looks like he's got a bit of a decision here. If he retreats and uses Mach Cut, he would actually just get knocked out by Outrage, and then, well, he'd probably lose the game, to be honest. He would lose his Garchomp, and then he'd have no other options to attack. So he was kind of stuck. If he hits me for 100 to set me up for a knockout the next turn, he loses. If he doesn't, he gets glaciated. So pretty much a lose-lose situation for him at this point. Unless he can draw Max Potion or something like that, there's really not going to be much happening for him. Now I draw a Juniper off of this. I'm going to go ahead and play it just because I need to get a catcher so I can catcher out Altaria. And I draw 3. So that will work for me. I had to discard a switch, which was a little painful, but I'm fine with that. I really needed the catcher, because if he has a blend, and just brings up the Garchomp to Dragon Blade me, I could still lose. So I needed to get that catcher to ensure that I could glaciate, and there we go. One more, and I think the game is over. I'm going to take 4 prizes on the next turn with Glaciate. The only way he's going to knock me out is with a switch and a blend. He could stall for time with a catcher. I'm not sure how many energy I actually have left in my deck, so I might not be able to actually retreat if he has a catcher, but he says GG, and that's... looks like Kyurem is gonna steal a win here. You know, we had a rough start with the Ho-Oh, and yeah, he prized 2 Gibbles. That's really my saving grace here. He was not able to have a second Garchomp ready, and you know, just buying some times with some tricks, the Enhanced Hammer to discard the blend, the catcher to bring out the Altaria, and that's really all it takes. And it looks like I had a DC left in case he had a catcher, so there was really no way out for him at this point besides the switch and the blend. And so we're just going to Glaciate and knock out 4 Pokemon on the last turn. A little bit of overkill since we only needed 3 prizes, but I'll take an extra one. So the animation for doing this is actually quite slow, but that's okay. You can take your time when you're victorious. And that is going to wrap it up. So the straight Kyurem deck, well, apparently Ho-Oh wanted to jump out, kind of like Wobbuffet in the cartoon, where he just kind of sends himself out there, but you don't want him out there at all. Also like Psyduck, I suppose. And that's Ho-Oh was my Psyduck this game. He just kind of went out there and did his thing, and I did not want that. So Kyurem got the job done with Glaciate, knocked out all the Altarias, and that's it. So that's going to wrap up this game from Bad Deck Monday. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Pooka, and I'll see you next time.